Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of eShop Action Committee. It feels weird to see the actual name of the podcast now. I didn't in the first episode. What is going on? Hello everybody. I am here with Brjann of Image Inform.
Hello Dan, and hello everybody. How are you doing?
This is the first podcast in like a decade. It's officially on iTunes now.
Well, it's where it's supposed to be, I think. I also like the eShop Action Committee. It sounds very, very formal. Just unlike everything that is Nintendo, right?
Well, it needs to be standing far away from it because this is more. I think this is more fun to do, to be honest. Yeah. I think it's fun to talk to developers and discuss eShop games.
Yeah, well, so do I. Or
well,
I like talking to you. Let's put it that way.
That's true. That's true. But we have done that many times.
Well, just a couple of weeks ago, I mean, we were supposed to record an interview for the Action Committee.
Yeah.
But then we just ended up chatting for over an hour and forgot to record it. So yeah.
That's true. And then you had stuff to do, and then I had stuff to do, and then it was like 2 weeks later, and then we were thinking, "Well, what are we exactly doing again?"
Yeah, exactly.
But this time we're actually going to have that interview.
Sweet. So okay. What kind of questions do you have lined up for me this time?
About 19.
Okay, wonderful. Let's get to it.
So it's going to be quite lengthy, but it will be okay. Hopefully, maybe.
Yep.
Maybe you will even just say the answers while you're already giving another answer, so you never know.
Well, I have a tendency of talking too much, so yeah.
That's true. Well, Brjann, before we start about Dig 2, I was wondering how the process went of bringing SteamWorld Heist to other platforms, because you went to 3DS, and then what happened?
All right. So what happened then is as you may be one of the guys who remember that initially we said that making SteamWorld Heist would take us about 10 months or so. So it was sort of scheduled to come out definitely before the end of 2014. And then we said it's coming in spring 2015, and then it's coming in summer 2015, and then in the fall of 2015, and then maybe not at all in 2015. And I was really worried that the game was just never going to come out.
No.
So we had we decided that we hurried to get it out by the end of 2015 on 3DS. And by that time, everyone at Image Inform was more or less exhausted. So we decided that before we port it to other platforms, we decided to make a DLC called The Outsider for Heist. And making The Outsider took very long. So then when we started porting, we had Steam and PlayStation versions of SteamWorld Heist. They came out in June 2016. And then we also made a Wii U version that came out in October, I think, in September, October 2016.
Oh.
And so it means like it took a really long time to port SteamWorld Heist to other platforms. It was a very complex game, like so much stuff going on, and yeah, like all the other platforms presented their own problems and so on. So it took very long, and then by last fall of 2016, we were thinking about bringing SteamWorld Heist to iOS, to the App Store. But we were also so tired of making SteamWorld Heist because making the game had taken almost 2 years before it came out on the 3DS, and then porting it had been going on for like 7 or 8 months, or 8 or 9 months before we had the Wii U version out. So we were so fed up with making SteamWorld Heist that there was this one hero in the office, a guy called Jarl Larsson, who was sort of new-ish in the office, so he didn't dare to say no to the task of bringing it to iOS. But he was also fed up of making SteamWorld Heist. He was the only guy working on SteamWorld Heist when everyone else was working on SteamWorld Dig too. So he sort of felt left out, and wrapped it up, and we put it out on iOS, and it became an editor's choice on iOS. And we made so much money from the iOS version that he became like employee of the year, basically, at Image and Form for sticking it out and actually making the iOS version. It really has been a lucrative big hit for us to bring SteamWorld Heist to the App Store. But now I think we are done with SteamWorld Heist. Right now we're not doing anything new for that game.
Hopefully not. Is there a distinct difference with how well the game performed on 3DS compared to other systems, or is it sort of similar?
SteamWorld Heist, you mean now, right?
Yeah.
Well, I could easily look that up because I've become very, very, very good at keeping track of sales and so on. That's like something that I find just infinitely relaxing these days to look at sales figures and see how the games have done, how it's been doing and so on. So give me a second. I'll just actually, I would say it's like this with SteamWorld Heist. It's done really well on 3DS. It's done marginally better on Steam.
Right.
And then all the other platforms lag a little bit. Wii U it's not fun to look at those figures. You got to remember that we released the game. It came out in the US on October 20th, 2016. And that was the exact same day that Nintendo had their first reveal trailer for Nintendo Switch. So it's
right.
Effectively, the game came out on the day that they killed the platform. So it came out on Wii U the very same day they announced Nintendo Switch, which sort of was the death knell of the Wii U. Yeah. But then now we are talking about regular gaming systems. Then in November 2016, SteamWorld Heist came out on iOS, and the numbers there are just remarkable.
Wow!
You should also keep in mind that it's cheaper on iOS. We just thought that the iOS crowd, they wouldn't be paying like $20 for a game. So when it came out, it cost $10 or $9.99.
Right. So,
and it's $14.99 on all other platforms now.
Right. That's interesting.
It is interesting, and we put it out on iOS sort of because we could. Not that we had any expectations whatsoever, but in just a couple of months or so, or in 3 months, we had sold more copies on iOS than on any other platform. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy, right? And then it at that time it had been out on the 3DS for a whole year, and Steam and PlayStation Network for half a year. So in the 2 first months it had sort of run past, but it also one fact of the matter is that Apple made it an editor's choice game, meaning that we got lots of
promotion.
Yeah, we got a lot of App Store real estate at the launch, which meant that there was a crazy number of people sort of that went in looking at the game. We had on our game page, so to speak, on iOS, there was 9 million people were reading about the. I don't know if you have like an iPhone, but like there's a page that shows the game, explains about the game, and then you have like the buy now button right there on the page. So 9 million people were visited that page, and like, well, almost everybody decided that it was too expensive and left. But enough people clicked that buy button, and it's we were really surprised to see those numbers. We were not. Yeah, there was no way we could have guessed that it was going to do that well. So it sort of puts us in a strange position, because if you see figures like that, then obviously what you want to do is you want to go back and port other games to iOS as well. But like SteamWorld Dig and now SteamWorld Dig 2, you sort of need your controller, your gamepad, like your D-pad and your action buttons.
I mean, there are controller setups for iPads and iPhones, but you also have to take into account that people need to buy them first.
Yeah, and it's from what I understand. I mean, from my research, it's the number of people who have bought those setups. It's not a very high number, really.
No.
It's ideally what you want to do is to have a game that could really work just the way it is.
Right.
You would just buy it for your iPhone or your iPad. But yeah, it's SteamWorld Heist worked really well because it's a turn-based game, and you're not in any hurry. You can actually use the screen to sort of drag your crosshairs around and so on. With both SteamWorld Dig and SteamWorld Dig 2, you want that perfect sort of pixel perfect input. Yeah, unless we come up with a really great touch input scheme, probably we are not going to bring those games to the mobile market.
Right. Well, we talked a little bit about Wii U, but there was also a collection of both games released on Wii U and PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
Did that impact the growth of the fan base in any way, or?
I'm not sure. It's like either you do it or you don't. Right. If you do it, then you see it's like, wow, that was a good idea. And if you don't do it, then you don't know if it's going to be a good or bad idea.
Right.
But I have a feeling that at one point I thought that everybody who owns a 3DS or everybody who owns a Wii U, everybody has an eShop account. Right. And it's not true. It's like I think I don't know what the percentage is now, but at one point when I was looking, there was like a solid 40% of all people who bought games for the 3DS, or if it was the Wii U, I can't remember, who didn't have an eShop account. That meant that those people are only buying games via retail. So I was thinking, okay, let's make a retail release of SteamWorld Dig and SteamWorld Heist together, the SteamWorld collection we called it, and see if we can sell it. And again, I was quite surprised. Mind you, in Europe, Nintendo was the distributor for the SteamWorld collection,
right? And
that meant that we had some really decent sales in Europe. It sold the Wii U version sold quite a bit better in Europe than in the US.
Right.
In the US, we used our friends from Rising Star Games who did a really great job, I think. But it's obviously different if Nintendo calls you, if you own like a chain of stores and Nintendo calls you and tell you they have a game coming and Rising Star Games calls you. So it's, I think we were, on the whole, we're surprised how well it's sold. Yeah.
I'm surprised that they didn't do this more or on 3DS, because that's where the heart of SteamWorld lied until that point.
Yeah, I was begging. I mean, I was going to say I was begging on my bare knees, which I wasn't. But like in emails, I really wanted. I asked Nintendo multiple times if if this was only going to be a Wii U product, if there's any way we could bring it to 3DS as well. And it turns out that the cost of goods is so much higher on 3DS.
Right.
So that the 3DS version, the retail version, would have cost a bit more than the Wii U version, which was it would be strange because we don't have that mismatch on the eShop. Like the 3DS version costs as much as the Wii U version, and yeah, people would have, like fans might have had a hard time seeing that. It's like, why do we have to pay more? Why are we being punished for owning a 3DS?
Right.
Because we also released the PlayStation version on the PS4 version of SteamWorld Collection, I should say.
Right.
Through Rising Star Games, and we could keep the price the same for the PS4 and the Wii U version, and then like if we had released the 3DS version, that would have been more expensive than either of those two, and yeah, like people, it seemed unfair somehow.
Yeah, fair enough.
But at the same time, Dan, I mean, I would have loved to see that, like I would have loved to own that myself, like the collection on a cartridge. That would be so super awesome.
I still think it would have been super awesome.
Yeah, well, so do I. Well, maybe we can do other stuff in the future. I mean, who knows, right?
Hopefully. Anyway, let's talk about SteamWorld Dig 2 now.
Yes.
For starters, I guess I want to ask, why return to the Dig style?
Oh, okay. Why we returned to Dig?
Yeah.
Well, the thing was that we had made SteamWorld Dig, and when we were done with that game, we really honestly didn't know if it was going to be well received or not. It's not that we were worried that people would hate the game, but we weren't sure of how many people would find out about the game. Let's put it that way.
I remember that.
Yeah, of course you remember, if anyone, right? I mean,
yeah, I mean, when we, you will definitely not remember us. I do it very fondly. We were sitting there for the first interview we ever did, and you were nervous.
Yeah, totally. I remember it very well too. I mean, I was not used to it at all. Like,
right.
And also we were really nobody. Like, really, really nobody. It's not that we are famous or great or in any way greater now than we were back then. But
right.
I was distinctly not used to the fact that people wanted to talk to me about our games, and I had no idea of what to expect from SteamWorld Dig.
Don't worry, you did well.
Yeah, we did. So that is, it was fascinating to see, and what happened. I mean, some people might know this, but just to recap, then we made SteamWorld Dig, and when we submitted it for approval with Nintendo for the so-called lot check, we had a sort of a post-mortem in the office, where we decided that now we spent 8 or 9 calendar months on making a game, it's too risky to spend that much time, because what will happen if SteamWorld Dig doesn't sell at all? That means that we're going bankrupt. So in the future, if we manage to survive SteamWorld Dig somehow, then let's just make smaller games in the future. So after SteamWorld Dig, we submitted it for approval. Then we went on vacation, and then SteamWorld Dig came out on August 7th in Europe in 2013. By then, we had already started making 2 smaller games. We had just started making that like the week before or so. So 2 smaller games, because that just felt less risky to have smaller efforts. And then SteamWorld Dig was so successful, and we were reading so many reviews that said that so many of them ended with, I can't wait to see what these guys are up to next. And if we had like smaller efforts coming out then, I was just terrified that, oh no, people are going to say, yeah, it's like I expected. They're a one-hit wonder, and they could only make one good game. And so while Dig was successful then, we broke off development of those 2 smaller games because we had to get started on porting SteamWorld Dig to Steam and to PlayStation and so on.
Right.
And in the meantime there, I wanted desperately for us to come up with a bigger idea, something grander that we could follow up SteamWorld Dig with. And then Ole Håkansson, our lead designer, he presented SteamWorld Heist to me, and I said, that's fabulous. That's what we're going to do. But so we made SteamWorld Heist a radically different game from SteamWorld Dig, because we wanted to prove that we could make any kind of game and make it good. Like, so that's why we didn't jump onto making SteamWorld Dig 2 immediately then, because
right.
we didn't want to be branded as a developer that makes digging games. But now but there's another side of it too, because towards the end of SteamWorld Dig, or halfway through the development, I had to start borrowing money to finish up SteamWorld Dig, because the game wasn't finished, and we just needed money to pay for salaries and so on during the last months. And in the beginning, we actually thought that making SteamWorld Dig was going to take much longer, if we were going to have everything in there that we sort of dreamed about. But I said, we can't borrow more money now. If you borrow more money, like the mortgage on these loans is going to be too big. Even if it's successful, this loan is going to haunt us forever. So, like, what do we need to cut from SteamWorld Dig in order to release it, to be done with it in, let's say, at the end of June 2013? And we came up with a plan, and so we submitted at the end of June. But then, like, when it came out, a lot of people thought it was great, but we've always sort of seen the stuff that didn't make it into SteamWorld Dig, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
So there was always at the back of our minds that if we get a chance at some point, we have to make a sequel to SteamWorld Dig, because there are so many neat ideas that we couldn't afford to put in SteamWorld Dig. So we always wanted to make a sequel to SteamWorld Dig. And after we were done with SteamWorld Heist, we were so tired that it was like, okay, let's make that sequel, because it's still relatively fresh in our memory what we want to do for SteamWorld Dig 2.
Right.
And right now we don't want to get into this huge risk of SteamWorld Heist, which was, in the beginning, SteamWorld Heist was a great idea, but it was all like, and then we'll figure it out as we go along. And it was horrible to work on a game like that, because we after a year, we sort of had to change everything about SteamWorld Heist, and it was terrifying the whole time. SteamWorld Dig 2 sounded like, oh yeah, we'll know exactly what we want to do from day one, and that's super bullshit too, because it's not true. There are so many things that we thought, okay, SteamWorld Dig 2, we'll know exactly what we want to do, but there were so many things that we revised going along the way as well. I guess that's just how we make games at Image and Form. We experiment, and then we decide that it's not good enough, and we throw it away, and then we come up with something else that sounds brilliant, and we try it, and it doesn't cut it, and we throw it away. And then finally, at the end, we have something that is very, very, very tight, I think.
Yeah. For me, I am happy that Dig 2 exists. Mostly because, like, the original SteamWorld Dig, for me, it came out of nowhere. And we could say we had this whole, this long lead up before. That wasn't really the case. I made that when we did that Free Punch, the video and the interview and what have you. It was a decision that was made over a weekend. Like, yeah. I didn't have much time to think about it as well. No. And then seeing that trailer for the second one during that Nindies presentation, it made me very happy.
It was one of those things that it was very hard not to talk about, because like making SteamWorld Dig, it felt like I was screaming in all directions, and nobody was tuned to that channel, if you understand what I mean.
Right.
Nobody was listening to the Brjann channel. And then
I remember that period also very well.
Yeah.
I think among myself, you messaged like 50 other people directly through a Twitter message.
Yeah, I wonder if it was that high, but it was like, I mean, there's you, and there was like a couple of other journalists that were just instrumental in the beginning, because I was just so grateful that someone wanted to talk to me at all, and then you just went totally overboard and put so much effort into it, and we sat there.
To be fair, where it came down to is you did send me that message. I clicked on the link you sent because that's the kind thing to do. I looked it over, looked at the screenshots, said from, why has nobody talked about this before? That seems weird to me.
Yeah. Well, we didn't know anything about anything at that time. We still know very little about everything.
Yeah.
But at that time we knew nothing about anything. So we thought that, okay, maybe it's best if we can concentrate all our efforts just to a few days before we launch SteamWorld Dig, and then hopefully someone will pick up on the message then. Because if we start talking about it too early, we won't have stuff to talk about closer to the release of the game.
Yeah. I still think it's one of the more fascinating stories of my entire life.
Well, it's those days when we made that, like you and me, we sat like into the night of like the day before release or something,
right?
Like into the small hours of the night, and I was so tired, but I was so exhilarated at the same time. I had the same thing with SteamWorld Heist, and I've noticed that I really live for those days, or maybe that week, like around launch, when suddenly like everything comes together, and
right.
And yeah, it is so gratifying. Like with SteamWorld Heist and now SteamWorld Dig 2. Now we have Julius working at Image and Form as well, who is a
great guy. Great guy.
He's a very bright guy. He's a very kind guy, and he has so much energy, like, to put into community management. I feel myself getting older, and like my energy is like sort of it can only last that far. But like during those weeks around just before and just after launch, I feel I could run a marathon every day. I have so much.
You can take
energy.
on the world.
Yeah, I can take on the world right then.
Right.
But yeah.
But yeah, how would you describe the bump from the first to the second Dig game? Are there things that you have done differently than before?
Yeah, there are a few things. I mean, one important difference at Image and Form between the Dig 1 and the Dig 2 launch is that I think when we started making SteamWorld Dig, there were 5 or 6 people employed at Image and Form.
Right.
Now there's 20 of us, right? So one thing is that by necessity, we have become much more structured than before. And, well, that's sort of what I like to think that we've become more structured. I think also we've become less efficient, like, as a consequence of being more people.
Huh.
Like 5 or 6 people, we can sort of just
stay in one line.
Yeah, or like swivel our chairs around and have like an Insta meeting, like 5 or 6 people talking about the same thing at the same time, and then we swivel back and do some more work, swivel around and talk. Now it's 20 people. It's like it's a world of difference. Now there are more graphic artists than at Image and Form than there was personnel at the beginning, right? So yeah, it's hard to get all the information like from the core out to the fringes, so to speak, and then and also there are so many creative people that like who has the final say on everything and so on. I like to think that hopefully like people get their ideas through into the last game, but so that's one thing. Since we are less efficient, we have to be more structured, and so we are now working in 2-week sprints, as it's called. It's like we decide, like on a Friday, we decide, okay, for the next 2 weeks, we are going to achieve this, and then we have to achieve that. Like a very tangible goal. Like, for example, this next world will have to be playable by next week, and so that's sort of the game design goal. Like the graphic team goal can be that these many percent of all the characters in the game will have to be animated. To like finalized animations must be done, and the programmers their goal can be like for the next 2 weeks, the particle effect system has to be flawless or something like that.
Why?
So there are so many. We use a task system called Trello, and there's like
I use that too.
Yeah, oh, you do? Okay, wonderful. So like for one 2 week sprint, we have hundreds and hundreds of tasks that need to be addressed during those 2 weeks.
Right.
And like we have stopped being like a cuddly little developer, I think. Meaning that, yeah, let's have this in the game. Oh, it didn't work. Oh, okay, never mind. I made this instead. Oh, that's cool. Now it's like, if your task isn't done by the end of these 2 weeks, this feature is not going to be in the game. That's sort of like the harsh reality of it.
Ah.
But
interesting.
Yeah. But then you have at the same time you have like, yeah, there's so many darlings being killed during a project. That's probably what I wanted to say. Oh. So, but at the same time, there are so many darlings that people are championing. I mean, if someone says, well, we're going to kill this feature, and someone stands up and says, no, that's not going to be killed. I'm going to do whatever it takes to keep it alive.
What I noticed from looking at the footage that was presented, it feels more like a Metroidvania game than before. Are you keeping a similar progression-wise, or are you opening the game up?
Oh, wow. That's a sort of a committal question.
Yeah.
Or I would say that it is more Metroidvania than before. But at the same time, opening it up. That is the worst answer, because like that's like yes and no and yes and no. It's like we are. Like for one, the game is much bigger than Dig 1, and but that's one of the things that we've when we made Dig, when people reviewed SteamWorld Dig, it was unanimous that people said it's a great game, but it's on the short side. And
I didn't mind that though.
No, I didn't mind it either. but well, not everyone either. Like some people just thought it was a perfect game, but some people thought it was a bit short. And we got so tired of reading that over and over. And it's like, damn, what if we had managed to make it a little bit longer? What would people have thought about it then? Would it have been like the best game ever made? So we decided that, okay, with the next game, SteamWorld Heist, we're not going to make that game too short.
Right.
It's not going to. Nobody's going to say afterwards that it was great, but it was on the short side. And nobody did. And we also felt that with SteamWorld Dig 2. It's like it would be strange if we made a sequel that was also too short. So how can we make a game that is long enough to not be talked about as a short game,
right?
But also without just grinding. I mean, because if you add grinding to a game in order to avoid it being called short, then you haven't really achieved anything with the game. It's like then it's just longer. It's just grindier, and we did not want to make it grindy.
Okay.
So sorry, what was the question again?
The question was, it looks more like a Castlevania. Are you keeping a similar progression? Are you opening the game up?
Yeah, so it is a similar progression, and yes, we're opening it up.
That's a very more concise answer.
Exactly. That's sort of what I noticed, like I always do, that it's like, Brjann, you don't even remember what the question was now. You're talking about some pet subject, but like, how are you going to bring this back, right? So that was sort of the main issue of SteamWorld Dig 2 was that, like, how can we make the game longer without making it feel tedious or grindy at all?
Right.
Interesting the whole time, but at the same time keep that wonderful, rewarding upgrade loop that you sort of, you're always going through these things that are so nice.
Right. Join me and Brjann for the second part of our interview, in which we talk more about SteamWorld Dig 2 in the future of the SteamWorld series. For future updates, be sure to follow us on Twitter as well, @Nintendaan. That is NINTENDAAN. See you soon.